And what's up? Welcome in GC Live Monday episode of the show. Wes Mitchell here, Chris Clark. It is GC Live. Plenty to get to, plenty to talk about. But Chris, before we get anywhere, before we move on to any other subject, before we tell you about our presenting sponsor, we got to start, I would say, first with a congratulations to South Carolina women's basketball, to Dawn Staley, to everybody involved with that program. Going wire to wire, number one to start the year, number one to finish the year, and then, man, just doing it in dominant fashion last night. I mean, I don't know about you. I kind of kept waiting to see if there was going to be that run, that surge from UConn. There was a little couple of, I would just say, mini runs here or there. They chipped away at the lead. South Carolina had a big lead in the first half, but ultimately, the Gamecocks did what they've done just about every game this season and took care of business. The game was never really in doubt. Very fitting that they defeat UConn on the way to a national title. Obviously, Dawn Staley's second at the University of South Carolina, and the first for this core group of girls. And just so impressive, man. I've been listening to the radio, watching TV. I don't know necessarily if there are proper words to put into context just how impressive this run is. And I don't know that it shows any signs of slowing down anytime soon either, Chris.
It is really, really hard to win a title. Like, even the teams that have steamrolled competition during the regular season, we have seen this so many times when it comes title time. You just never know, right? And obviously, UConn has done its fair share of damage with Gino Auriemma, that amount of national titles that they've won in his long career. They have been the best program for a really, really long time, right? Even then, it's not like they've won every year. And, you see in football, you see in baseball, you certainly see in basketball, it's difficult to win a championship. And to go wire to wire, have all those expectations, have only a couple blemishes in total the entire season, but to have that target on your back for South Carolina and be able to come out and win with all that pressure, with all the expectations, I think was tremendous. So you're right. They came out and established things right from the get-go. Gino Auriemma, I don't know if you caught his post-game press conference, Wes. Certainly he laid out some of the challenges that UConn has had this year, and they have had those, but I thought he was very complimentary of the program. It was pretty evident from the start of that game that South Carolina was on a mission. I mean, that's what I tweeted out after the game. They were just simply not going to be denied. I mean, they made a lot of great plays. They shot the ball well. They made good decisions. But when you really look at what won this game, it was rebounding. It was incredible defense. They just suffocated UConn all night and set the tone.
Yeah, definitely. I thought Gino was kind of gracious in defeat. I think he knew who the better team was. I thought that was kind of apparent. What caught my attention wasn't even necessarily his words after the game, but his words during the game. I think it was in between the first and second quarter when they caught him, for those little quick interviews they do. And he just had the look of a coach who, I don't want to say had no answers as in like, oh, he didn't know what to do. He was overwhelmed. Just as a coach who has been in how many national championship battles, how many Final Four battles, who just was probably sitting there saying, I've been in many games where the roles were reversed. And, I thought one of Gino's quotes was kind of telling. They've won 11 titles, and he said, in 10 of them, we were the better team, and maybe all 11. And, Dawn Staley talked about that, actually, that they had so much post-game coverage. I think this was with the on-set crew that was doing a post-game, and they sort of took over SportsCenter. Dawn Staley said the number one team, the best team does not always win the championship. And how many times have we seen a team just roll through a regular season, and it doesn't matter the sport, in multiple sports, where just something gets off, right? Like maybe a player just mentally kind of has a couple bad games, gets down on themselves. Maybe you just tweak an injury and it affects everything. So to go wire to wire is just, in my opinion, maybe the most impressive thing about this. And then the fact that they just took care of business on Sunday. There did not appear to be any nerves, man. Like they just went out there and did what they were supposed to do, and the game never really felt that close. It felt like South Carolina was always in control.
They were only maybe, I think, 2 points, and it was probably when UConn would cut it to like 6. I remember there was one point later in the game where they finally hit a corner 3, and I think Beckers came back and made a shot, and you're going, all right, let's see. This is a point where South Carolina needs to answer, and they did, because you're sitting there going, Carolina's got the ball now. If they don't get points down here and then UConn comes down and gets an easy basket, now you're at 4 points, or something like that. Just never happened. South Carolina always had an answer from the get-go. I know you used the word overwhelmed earlier, Wes, and that's a word that Gino used. And someone mentioned that he was a scout guy saying he looked like he was physically ill. I listened to, they did have a bug going through the team. His press conference, little bit of nasal stuff going on there. So I don't know if maybe Gino really didn't feel all that well. That's very possible with the sickness running through their team. But I mean, I totally agree with you. It was kind of like he had almost resigned himself to, this is going to be a long night. We know, going into that game, okay, what's your biggest weakness? Any team in the country against South Carolina, it's the glass. I mean, there might be other things you're better than South Carolina at. They're going to be better than you at most things, but their number one advantage against anybody is their ability on the defensive and offensive boards. And that had to be Gino Auriemma's biggest hope going into that game is, okay, can we level that out, or can we make enough shots, or can Carolina miss enough shots to where it's not that big of an issue? It was a big issue from the very beginning, and that's why they had trouble all night.
Definitely, man. Before we get any further, I want to tell everybody about our presenting sponsor. It is Clint Hammond. You see his smiling face right there if you're on the video version of the show. NMLS number 71597. 803-576-4450 is the phone number. As always, ClintHammond.com. You see right above my head every single show. Give Clint a shout. If you are in the market for a new home, Clint will help walk you through what can be a daunting or overwhelming process. Word of the day, overwhelming. Clint will make it much easier than it was for UConn dealing with South Carolina's defense last night. And, that was certainly the story. I think that no matter how well the offense did or didn't play throughout the tournament, the offense kind of started to come on. Actually, as the opponents got better, South Carolina's offense sort of took it into another level as well. But the defense traveled, man. Like, to use a cliche, every single team South Carolina faced was well below what they normally shoot and what they normally score, throughout the season. And that was just because they were suffocating on defense. And man, as much shine, as much love as Aaliyah Boston has deservedly gotten all season long and all tournament long. First, I saw this stat. I think SEC Network maybe put it out on Twitter. First person in NCAA tournament history to average 15 points and 15 boards throughout the tournament. Incredible. She is the engine that drives this program right now, at least on the court. But man, Destiny Henderson, anything is possible, as they say now. She was incredible, man. You want to talk about somebody looking like they were on a mission. She was on a mission. And, Chris, you and I talk quite a bit about development of players in the other sports, in football, obviously, which is our primary sport we cover. But, man, talk about the development of her from when she first arrived, waiting a couple of years, behind Ty Harris. She was, pretty highly recruited in her own right, but waited her turn. And then even this year, I think when people think about this team, they obviously think of Aaliyah Boston first. They think of Bree Bill's defense if they really follow the team. Zaya Cook is sort of the other like most highly recruited player on this team, in addition to Aaliyah Boston. They don't necessarily talk about Destiny Henderson first, second, or maybe even third on this team. She was the best player on the floor last night, and she was playing with confidence. There was a moment where they kept getting these close-ups over when she was shooting free throws, Chris. I think she had gotten a little bit tired, or actually maybe even was hurting a little bit, but she just kept rolling, man. That was so fun to watch because she seems to just be a really incredible personality. Like to see somebody else step up, have a career high in that moment was just really, really fun to watch last night.
It was. It was, and I'm not being dramatic saying this. Like, it was one of the more impressive performances I've seen, like in Carolina hoops, in all the games I've watched, men's or women's. She was completely locked in, and her offense, obviously shooting. She started 3-for-3 from the 3-point line, which was a huge part of opening that game and setting the tone, getting herself open for some threes, hitting them, knocking them down. That was big. You think of the early corner three. You think of how patient she was with the basketball, how she took care of it. That was huge. But to me, Wes, the job she did on Paige Beckers, which is, you think of a few people who are the hardest people to guard in women's basketball. Leah Boston, probably up there, right? She might be number one, number two. Paige Beckers is up there. She's incredible with how she moves off the ball, getting herself open, able to pirouette, spin, do all these different things and get her shot off, create her own shot. It's a really difficult guard. I think a lot of us thought, or I'll put myself in this category, we thought, okay, Bree Beal, right? Bree Beal, who did an amazing job on Haley Van Lith from Louisville, completely shut her down for most of that game. You're thinking, all right, best offensive player Beckers, best defender on the ball, Bree Beal. But no, they put Destiny Henderson on her. Another great decision by Dawn Staley, because Henderson was so in Becker's pocket for most of the night that in the early going, Beckers was passive. She finally started searching for her shot later, and she did make some plays, as she's going to do. But I think she had no points in the first quarter, which was significant. And Henderson just made some outstanding plays defensively on her, whether it was denying her the ball or preventing her from getting a shot off. And then obviously there were some defensive possessions as a team for South Carolina that were awesome as well. So yeah, Henderson should get a ton of credit. I agree with you. She was the best player on the floor last night. I think Victoria Saxton, once again, was so underrated. She was huge in that game as well, but Henderson was awesome.
Yeah, she was. And I think just one of the points that was made after the game was how this team has taken on the personality of Dawn Staley. And man, as many high profile athletes as you and I are around due to our jobs, the ability of Dawn Staley to take what in almost all these cases were the best player, every single player on this team was the best player on their high school team. And to get them all to come together and just buy in to, hey, you have a role. So, Zaya Cook could be the best player on many teams in the country, but she played her role. Bree Bill, we talk about her defense, but as an overall player, she was one of the best players in the country out of high school. The younger, the freshmen and sophomores that are playing but not starting and sort of playing these reserve roles, almost all of them were like top 10, top 12, top 13, depending on the rankings you look at in the entire country. So for them to all buy in, man, and not be that little negative, that little chirping in the locker room, that little, well, I'm here, but I'm just going to add some negativity to the conversation. For them not to operate like that and to operate fully as a team capacity is, it's a huge credit to them individually for buying in, but also a huge credit to Dawn Staley. There are not many people that can be as successful as Dawn Staley as a player that have been able to turn around and translate that into ability as a coach. And possibly more impressive, in my opinion, Chris, than the ability just X's and O's or recruiting or all this other stuff is just the ability to build a culture and a team mindset and to get everybody to buy in and to teach them about life as well. I mean, there's kind of I don't even know necessarily who to compare it to, man. A lot of times you and I we sort of go across sports, but I mean, it's kind of like the way Saban just recruits top talent after top talent after top talent. And if you go to that program, you just have to know, hey, I may not play right away. I may not be the top player right away, but I'm going to have a chance to do something special. And they all got to experience what that was, what that special thing is last night.
Yeah, and I'm glad you used the word culture. I was going to bring that up. She's kind of created this, not only the team culture, but just this entire culture around the program, whether it's, the whole FAMS thing instead of fans. We're going to have FAMS, and you see how the niche that this program has carved out in the community, nationally, the awareness that they brought to the sport. Dawn Staley is a transcendent figure, in athletics, just in general, and you can maybe even go farther than that. But it really is amazing what she's done. It's more than just, we're going to recruit a bunch of good players and we'll roll them out there and kind of see what happens. I mean, it really is kind of a true program, and people have such a big attachment to it. She talks about it a lot. She talked about it in the post game, with the ESPN crew about TV rights and women's sports and all these different things. And whatever your thoughts are on that, nobody can deny the fact that, Dawn has completely changed the fortunes of the South Carolina women's basketball program, but she's also brought more awareness to the university. And she's certainly built a culture and a program that is very unique. And I think she's completely changed the sport now, where, look, Gino Auriemma, UConn, they may win the national title next year. They may win the next 5. I have no idea. I would bank on Dawn Staley capturing probably a few more in her career before she's done. But I think in a lot of ways, there's been a torch passing where it was Gino Auriemma and it was Pat Summitt. I think Dawn Staley is kind of the face of women's college basketball and really probably women's sports right now in the country.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'll be curious to see what, UConn and their staff had to be looking out there saying, we are outclassed as far as ability and talent and plan on the floor. What do they try to now do? Can they reinvent themselves a little bit and now try and match the South Carolina program? I think it's the big question, because this thing ain't. I hate to start to get too far ahead of ourselves with it, because it's less than 20. It's less than 24 hours since you accomplished this tremendous goal, but this thing is not slowing down anytime soon. And the fact that you bring most of this team back next year, and then you add Raven Johnson to the floor as well, who, according to early reports, was the best of the freshmen that came in last year. So, you're obviously going to have to replace your point guard in Destiny Henderson. That's going to be difficult. But Raven Johnson was going to be the backup point guard this year until she injured her knee. So I think there, you look ahead, this thing is not slowing down anytime soon. The question quickly becomes, how do you keep the motivation with this group? How do you motivate for another title when I think you could sort of listening to Aaliyah Boston talk after the game, how many times she mentioned that vision of her, that photo or video of her crying last year, and how that was the motivation for this year. It was clear there were some specific things that were used when things got tough. how do you rewrite this thing? And there's nobody better than Dawn Staley, I think, to go back and say, well, what are we going to point to now? Where do we find our motivation now? But the talent is going to be there regardless, and I think it's only going to keep growing. It may actually get better, but the buy-in and the want to will have to stay at the level that it was this year as well.
Yeah, and Dawn is so, I mean, one of her biggest strengths, and she has many of them, I think, is being able to find even the smallest things that she can take to motivate her or motivate her team. And that did rub off. I mean, Aaliyah Boston was not coming off of that thing about her, the vision, the images of her crying and things of that nature. You could tell that bothered her. And it was a big motivation for her. It wasn't just losing in that game against Stanford and how they lost. It was how the information was regurgitated, how it was portrayed. That bothered her. And you can tell in a lot of the public messaging and the private messaging that Dawn has with her team, she is really, really good at taking different things that maybe it's not even a slight, but it's going to be a slight towards their team, to be able to motivate them for the next thing.
Definitely, man. I want to hit a couple of our chat comments here. And like I said, I don't know if I said this out loud or just to you, Chris. I am going to try. So South Carolina women's basketball is scheduled to arrive at CLA at 2:30. So for those of you who are on the live stream right now, for us, obviously the audio podcast, I'm going to cut this part out. So y'all can go watch it. Colin's actually there. You can watch it on YouTube, youtube.com/GamecockCentral later on if you're listening to this on the podcast audio version. But if you're with us here live, which we've got, I think, about 150 people hanging out with us right now, I'm going to try to pull some video up of the team arriving that we can talk over as we continue with the show. That'll be here in a second. And Chris, like I said, I want to hit on a couple of these comments, and I do want to thank our friends at Liberty Tax here in Columbia for they are technically our chat line sponsor right now. So this is brought to you by them. Trey, adding to our point from earlier that Henderson almost shut down Paige Beckers, and it really felt like there was a point, Chris, where Beckers kind of was like, all right, it's going to have to be me tonight. And I almost could feel the wheels turning. It felt like she was about to try to play hero ball and just try to take over for UConn offensively. But even then, it just was not happening. She was having to work so hard to get open looks. She did end up getting a few open looks, but she was having to run the court so much and weave in and out of traffic and off of so many different screens. And it just was not happening. And normally it feels like sometimes you can wear out your player. Like if Henderson's game was just shutting down Beckers and then and Henderson scored like 8 points or something, you'd be like, well, she did her job. She shut down their best scorer. So for her to have the career high she did, the offensive night she did, while simultaneously shutting down their best player, is all the more impressive in my opinion. And, I think there was a great point also. Where'd it go? Also from Trey. I guess we're showing Trey all the love. Henderson had a case for MVP. And I guess so Aaliyah's award was Final Four MVP. So you're including the other game in there as well, I guess technically. But national championship MVP, in my opinion, was certainly Destiny Henderson.
I thought so too. And, you go back and look at Beckers. It's not, remember, she missed a bunch of games with an injury. And they kind of brought her back slowly to where even in the early stages of the NCAA tournament, she was playing small minutes. I think like she played 9 minutes in their opener against Villanova. Against Mercer, she played 24. So she's still coming along. If you go through and look, she played almost the whole game last night. That was probably when you kind of look at the stats and the metrics, probably her worst game of the season, and she didn't play poorly, really, but that was when you bake in how much she played versus her production. It was one of the worst games. Certainly, you could say that fairly. One of the worst games that she's played all season, and so I think Destiny Henderson had a lot to do with that. Gino Auriemma even mentioned after the game, Wes, kind of along the lines of what you said. Paige was kind of all they had offensively, and so she did feel some pressure to do it all herself. And he said, "Look, that's not ideal. You can't have one person out there doing it." And he was very measured and all that about it. It was kind of recognized she had to be it for them, but that's not good enough. You're not going to be able to beat South Carolina with one person taking the shots and trying to do everything. And she scored, what'd she score, Wes? I mean, 14. Yeah, she had 14 points, 46% shooting. She made 1 3. She got to the free throw line once, or got there once and made one of those. Yeah. So that's about as good as you can ask for.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Before we move any further, got to tell everybody about Liberty Tax. Overcome your taxiety. Chris, have you done your taxes yet, man? We're still waiting on you to confirm that you've done your taxes.
Nope. No, taxiety at an all-time high right now.
Yeah, we're running out of time. It is April 4th. Give our friends with the tax team at Liberty Tax locations here in the Columbia area a call. Irmo, Lexington, and Columbia. They're at 1123 South Lake Drive in Lexington, 7467 St. Andrews Road in Irmo, and then 551 St. Andrews Road in Columbia. They have virtual income tax prep with local tax professionals, or you can go in office if you want to do it more old school, more traditional. That is certainly available as well. And leading up until April 18th, which is the date this year, they're actually open nights and weekends. So that is 803-462-5576. And while y'all are looking at that graphic, I'm going to try, just bear with me here. There's a little process to this. I'm going to try and see if we can't get something going on this this women's basketball deal. Let's see. Y'all just hang with me real. Okay, there we go. So I'm going to just sort of leave that up right now. And Chris, you and I can sort of keep rolling with the show. But let's talk a little football recruiting, Chris, while we wait on the team to get there. Corey Rucker goes public. He was the welcome home from, I guess that's now a few weeks ago. And actually the most, so there was 3 welcome homes, right? Everybody wants to know which welcome home is who. The most recent welcome home was Shane Beamer tweeting about the addition of Corey Rucker, Arkansas State transfer portal wide receiver, 3 years of eligibility left. And Chris, I'll throw it open to you, man. Your initial thoughts on the addition of Corey Rucker?
Well, we knew that the Carolina staff was going to take some flexibility past the 2022 recruiting class in order to be able to add a player or players from the transfer portal if they found one that was a good fit at a position of need. And so wide receiver is one of those positions where South Carolina's looking to add help both in the short term and long term. And so when Corey Rucker hit the portal, that was kind of a natural fit. You've talked about this a lot in the past on Gamecock Central, outlining that it moved pretty quickly once Corey hit the portal. South Carolina and a bunch of others jumped on him. They were in early on him, which I think ended up helping it. They were able to get him on campus. But this is a guy that's been a really productive player. When you look at his traits, I don't know if there's anything that you look at about Corey Rucker and say, well, he's absolutely elite in this one metric. He's not going to run 4.25. He's not 6'4". But what he does have is good size, and he just seems to do everything well. He runs good routes. He's good in space. He plays a little bit bigger than his size. And I think the key to all that, Wes, is he's productive. I mean, he has a track record of being productive. So this is someone that, will be able to come on campus, go through preseason practice, and I think solves exactly what I was talking about in that could he help short term? Yes, but he also has, he's not a 1-year guy. He's a guy that's got up to 3 years of eligibility, so that can give you a long-term solution as well. It's kind of like getting a player with experience out of your high school recruiting class who can come and play multiple years for you.
Yeah, man. I think when he first hit the portal, South Carolina was one of, if not the first program to reach out and then to offer him. So they made it very clear from day one, hey, you're a guy we want. And the two words that were kind of, I would say, thrown out there to me right off the bat were explosive and productive. And I think you look at the film, there's a game on there where if you pull up YouTube, just type in Corey Rucker. There's a game on there where he just absolutely goes off and set some records. And you watch, he's a guy who can catch the football down the field. He's a guy who can make plays after the catch. I think looking at him, he's kind of someone who could play outside. He could play the slot. Just gives you another option. I think you look at this receiver position, man. This time last year, we were all trying to figure out who's the number one option. Like who's going to catch the football. And now I think you look, Josh Vann obviously is the returning top target. Then Jaheim Bell, you can sort of give him his own position. Like he's going to be a receiving threat for this team. Antoine Wells is coming on. He is in a key battle with Xavier Legette. Obviously, Amerian Brown, Carryon Joyner are kind of going to be your two guys in the slot. Brown's had a good spring by all indications so far. And now you add Corey Rucker into this rotation as well. You still got big man E.J. Jenkins in the rotation too. So you have some options. You have some versatile skill sets. You can, maybe you can have a goal line package. You can have a, hey, we want to run the football package. You can have a, we want to put speed on the field package. You can do a lot of different things with this group that I think before, man, you weren't even getting to that detail. I think you were just saying, can I find three guys that I can roll out there and that can maybe get open?
Absolutely. I mean, and that's, look, none of that's to say we don't need people going on social media or running back to the Insiders Forum on Gamecock Central saying, well Wes and Chris said that they're going to light up the scoreboard. But certainly you do feel better about the receiver position as far as the personnel going into this season because there's a little bit more known commodities. Even if it's something like, okay, you remember the E.J. Jenkins kind of, and I don't mean in a negative way, like the hype going into last year, Wes. Largely there wasn't a ton of production there, and that wasn't just E.J. I mean, the entire offense, right? But even if it's knowing, okay, this is what E.J. Jenkins can do, or, hey, we saw what Amerian Brown, what he kind of needs to be in the bowl game, how he needs to get the ball, what he can do. The players and coaches have had a year to learn each other. The fans have even seen and been able to set some expectations. We know Josh Vann's going to be the best pure receiver on this team. We know that Jaheim Bell is a really good football player and can do a lot of different things. More known commodities, but beyond that, they do have more bodies this year, and I think more able bodies, to go out there and do some things. So while this, again, it's not a team that's going to go light up the scoreboard, and they're not going to have 2,000-yard receivers on this team. I don't even think they'll have one. We'll see. I don't think so. They still do have the capability to be more productive, and I think Rucker is a pretty, significant part of that.
Yeah, and I think, we see it all the time, man. We do put expectations on guys, and Amerian Brown was one I would have thought he had a chance to have a really big year last year. And it didn't quite happen. I thought we saw some signs of him breaking out, and then it just never really happened until he had, I thought one of his better games against against North Carolina in the bowl game. So sometime, Corey Rucker, as a guy who comes in the summer, he may come in, he may pick everything up incredibly quickly, and he may push for a starting job right away. Or, he may come in, it may be very quiet. He may be that guy where people are asking, hey, why is he not playing more? Why is he not playing more? And he's going to be in the rotation. He may show signs here or there. And then he may use this year to get settled in and then be a huge part of the rotation the next year, and I think that's a huge advantage to taking some of these guys out of the portal that as you said earlier, man, have 3 years of eligibility left. In my opinion, you start looking ahead, Josh Vann is done this year. So you start looking ahead. Jaheim Bell is in his 3rd year in the program. He is going to be draft eligible after this season. Wells and Rucker both having 3 years left. They could use this year to sort of get ready to be the core of your receiving group, next season. So I just think when you're sitting there and you're counting on one guy, it's tough going into a year. When you are sitting there saying all these guys have a chance, yeah, it doesn't mean you're going to light it up, but it just percentage-wise, you feel a lot better about being able to put 3 guys out there that can get open and that teams have to account for than you did at any point, I think, last offseason.
That's right. Yeah, just more options, And okay, Josh Vann, he's the lead guy. Like he now has a body of work where we're not sitting around this year, Wes, going, look, guys, Josh Vann, I promise he's got a lot of talent. Like I promise he can do it. He actually has put that on the field. He looks very focused. We've gotten to see him a little bit this spring in our limited media viewing windows, and I don't think there's any reason to believe anything other than he's going to be able to go out and turn in another solid campaign as a senior. Will it be what it was last season from a production standpoint? Will it be the same? Will it be better? We'll see. But we know that ability has now translated to the field, and there are more options now. And so you're not going there, okay, can they scratch out 3 guys that can go out there and play wide receiver? Now you can talk about it a little bit more of, and I was talking about this with the guys on 107.5 The Game earlier today in our spot. Now you can start talking about an actual rotation. Again, not that rotation is going to be top 5 in the SEC, okay, but a rotation that can go make some plays for you. And by the way, you have Spencer Rattler out there throwing him the football. That tends to make things look better as well.
Definitely, man. And, can it be top 5 as far as receiving core, as far as offense? Probably not realistic. Can it be? Here's the question. Can it be top half in the SEC? Can the offense be top half in the SEC? I think that's what you're aiming for, man. Like, there in general in the SEC, that sort of middle, almost like the middle third, right? Like you're going to have a couple of elite teams at the top, and then you're going to kind of have this just a jumble in the middle almost, and then you're going to have the teams at the bottom. South Carolina offensively was way down there. We talked about this last week, man. They were way down there last year. Can you at least get yourself into that middle area? Is going to be a huge thing for South Carolina this year. And if you do that, you're going to have a chance, because I do think the defense, if things roll their way, has a chance to be really solid, again this season. By the way, there was a question about the team arriving. Again, if you're watching with us live, that is a live view right there that you're seeing that I have pulled. So no, the team has not arrived yet. If you're listening to this later on, just head on over to youtube.com/GamecockCentral. Colin's going to have some video posted. But depending on when they get here, if it's towards the end of the show, Chris, we may just let everybody go and shoot them on over to the official YouTube stream from South Carolina. Let's see. What else do we need to hit, man? Scrimmage on Saturday. Not a lot out there right now. Shane Beamer's going to speak on Tuesday, I believe, this week about the latest on spring practice. And we'll certainly have more from that. From everything I've been told, Chris, a couple of noteworthy things. One, a deep ball to Amerian Brown, making another play out there. I believe that was from Spencer Rattler, catching a bomb. His speed, of course, being a major part of what he brings to the table. And Ncaa also making a big play, having a pick 6 in the scrimmage. It continues to sound like, from everything I've heard, man, that the defense has been running around, has been active, has been making plays. And again, that's not a bad sign when a guy like Ncaa, with Debo Williams and him getting a ton of reps this spring, with the first unit, with them being pretty careful, it sounds like, with some veteran guys like Shirai Green and Brad Johnson.
Yeah, it is. I mean, Mo Kaba, a guy with a lot of ability. We've covered in the past how early in his career, I think some people were sitting around going, where is he? Where's the impact? It's taken him a little while longer. I think with that significant knee injury that he sustained in high school, there was a, kind of a longer path towards coming back from that. But, physically, he definitely looks the part. And I think he has a lot of ability, a lot of natural ability that he's starting to tap into. So that is a huge plus for this team, and that, in being careful with your older guys, with Shirai Green, Brad Johnson going into their final seasons, you get those young guys some run. Debo Williams, a young guy, a transfer. He played a little last year, but he was year one. He was a freshman transfer who had not played. So getting those guys a lot of runs, significant. And again, good to hear on Amerian Brown, because he's kind of one of the guys that I've circled, Wes, as a possible X factor for this offense. I mean, Josh Vann, the running game, Jaheim Bell, Spencer Rattler, all Austin Stogner when he gets to South Carolina, all those are rightfully being talked about a lot. I think Amerian Brown is a guy that, with his kind of unique skill set, he's someone that I feel like could show a lot more than he did last season. I mean, think back to last year. I think he had 2 catches all year prior to his bowl game performance against North Carolina, where he caught, I think, 4 or 5 passes. That's more along the lines of, I think, what they need him to do in this offense.
Yeah, and man, Chris, I think he's a guy, just with his speed, you can involve him in some jet sweep stuff as well. Now, he's not the biggest guy. He's not going to stick his head in there like Debo did back in the day, or like Jaheim does when they hand the ball off to him. But if you want to sort of look, who's a versatile guy that can, bring some extra speed to this team, then he's the guy that I'll use your phrase. He's the guy you circle, man, because I think that's something, as we've kind of looked at the roster the last couple of years. What have we said? There has not been a ton of team speed. That's something they've had to keep trying to add, something they've tried to fix. And I think Brown is the guy that brings that, and just pure quickness, man. You look at some of the things, some of the things we've heard or been privy to watch a little bit of, just the pure quickness there to get open is very impressive. And again, I'll go back to what I was talking about earlier with Wells and Rucker. Sometimes it just takes a guy that full cycle to get comfortable. So, Brown may be that guy that by the end of the year, we're talking about him as like a household name among South Carolina fans,
Yeah, athletically, you see some things in practice and you see him move around, and then like you go back and watch the bowl game, and I can never shake the feeling of like, A, where was this? And B, what can he be going forward? Smaller guy, sure. Not going to catch 60 balls? No, probably not. But can he carve out a very important role and be used in this offense to its advantage? I definitely think so. So it'll be really interesting to see, where that goes this season. Wes, I want to make sure I hit on something real quick, not to jump in, but I will.
Go for it.
Before we get out of here, I got to mention something going up very shortly on GamecockCentral.com right after the show, probably. Tickets for the annual DJ Swearinger Celebrity Basketball Game. It is taking place on April 15th, which, of course, is the night before the spring game. I'm going to drop the link here in the chat. You can go get your tickets for that. Two Spoons Foundation, this charity basketball game, goes to benefit that. And a lot of Gamecock royalty, Wes, going to be there. I mean, Jadeveon Clowney, Pharaoh Cooper, Jonathan Joseph, Stephon Gilmore, and others will join DJ Swearinger. There'll be a dunk contest and the celebrity basketball game. Again, that's April 15th. Doors open at 6:30. Link is in the chat, and we'll have something up on GamecockCentral.com this afternoon as well. Wanted to make sure that we told the people about that.
Yeah, I have 3 thoughts to add. First of all, shout out Kendall Smith, our intern extraordinaire, listening and watching our show right now. What's up, Kendall? Chris, second of all, are you participating in the celebrity basketball game?
I'll follow that with 2 thoughts. Nobody wants to see that, and I'm not a celebrity. So I think especially when you stack me up against those names I just read, definitely not a celebrity. So I think I'm automatically disqualified from that.
Okay, additional note, the Two Spoons Foundation may be the best named charity foundation. I'm not just going to say in the country, I'm going to say of all time, actually. And who's the best basketball player among that bunch? Because you've got some guys that were pretty good back in their high school days from what you hear. So is Sidney Rice on the list?
I don't think Sydney. Let me double check this list. I don't think
Sidney was a beast back in the day.
Well,
I
and
think
you got Melvin Ingram is on here too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Melvin was a stud.
Yeah.
I think I heard Jonathan Joseph was good. Clowney played basketball in high school, but it wasn't anywhere close to what he could do on the football field.
No,
I say that as somebody who could knock me through this back window over here, but basketball was not his thing.
Debo Samuel, Jared Cook, Mike Davis, Gilmore. Pharaoh Cooper. I've never heard a Pharaoh Cooper take on how good he is. Yeah, I don't see Sidney Rice on here. I'm going to say
on there, man.
I don't know. Did Debo play in high school? I
can't remember. I cannot remember.
I'm going to say, without knowing for sure, Melvin Ingram and DJ Swearinger are the top two hoopers in this event. That'd be my guess.
Is DJ that good at basketball?
I think I've heard DJ's pretty good. I think I've got something in my head leading me to believe that. But even so, he's putting on the event, so we're going to put him up there at the top, even if he's not good at all.
Yeah, we'll give him some shine. Speaking of shine, before we get out of here, man, and again, if you're watching live, as soon as the team shows up, we're going to get out of your way and let you just go watch the official live stream from South Carolina. We're still waiting on the women's basketball team to arrive at CLA for their introduction. Man, first of all, I thought earlier you were going to mention the Colton Gauthier concert.
Well, let me put that up too. I mean, there's so many things going on that are good in Gamecock country, and I'm going to drop that link too right in the chat, Wes. Thank you for the
question is, will you get the date correct?
Amazing. Yes, I will. It is going to be April 9th. And I'm going to pull up my calendar just so we can verify for the people. That is Saturday. The team is supposed to practice on Saturday morning. That night, South Carolina quarterback Colton Gauthier will be putting on the first annual, and Wes, I dare say, the first ever NIL virtual concert with Colton Gauthier. Saturday, April 9th at 7 p.m. You may be going, what is that? I don't know. He's basically going to get on and play the guitar with some buddies on a virtual concert on the Stage It platform. The event is ticketed, so your proceeds will go to Colton Gauthier. It's basically an NIL deal for Colton, so really cool deal with him. jam.garnettrust.com. Made you a really easy link there. I think I screwed the link up, so you can't even click it. Just put it in, jam.garnettrust.com. And you'll be able to find information and tickets right there. Go check that out. Should be a good time.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, I always give Chris crap about dates because
I'm very bad at them.
That's one of his things. But man, again, let's close out with this. How about the fact that the very first thing that Dawn Staley said on the podium was not about her best players, was not about herself, was not about anything else about the game. She thanked God, and then what did she do? She mentioned all of the reserve players on this team. That had to mean something to every single one of the players that's contributed anything, be it on the court, be it practice, be it, just being a great teammate. The fact that she started with that, to me, just says everything about what Dawn Staley's program is all about, man.
Yeah, I mean, that really stood out to me, mentioning Olivia Thompson and some of the freshmen, that don't play a ton. I mean, these are people that, going back to your point about buying in earlier, they have accepted a role, you know, whatever that role may be. It may expand in the future. It may not expand as much. And, you know, we'll kind of see what happens on that front, but they're being patient. I think a lot of those people can look around and go, I'm helping this team. I'm playing an important role for right now. And then maybe I step up into a greater role later. Look at Destiny Henderson. She played, I think as a freshman, she played 15 minutes a game, something like that. And now she's risen to where she was the best player on the court in the national title game and a win for Carolina. So I thought that was great. And again, another example of that culture that Dawn Staley has built, where there's a genuine, you know, happiness and authenticity, you know, surrounding that program.
Definitely, man. So, all right, Chris, I'm trying to look at the stream. It looked like the team is starting to arrive. I think the caption said they might be about 5 minutes still away from being on the stage, but I'm gonna give everybody time to get over to the other stream and watch if they want. So this is not good for ratings or viewing on our part, but we are not going to take away any shine from Gamecocks women's basketball today. Y'all go check them out. Y'all go watch the team come back. Chris and I are going to get out of here. If you head on over to YouTube, just search South Carolina Gamecocks or go to youtube.com/Gamecocks online. The school has that official stream going. And then, of course, we'll have complete coverage on GamecockCentral.com of everything involving this South Carolina second women's basketball national championship. Chris, you got any closing thoughts, man? Or are you good to go?
Good to go.
All right. For Chris, I'm Wes. We appreciate y'all. Congrats again, South Carolina women's basketball national champions. Go watch them arrive in Columbia at CLA. Again, youtube.com/Gamecocks online. And Chris and I will see you later this week.